Political talk on another PolitiPod Live. Tonight we'll cover the Bundy reach around, Tulsi, Russia's second best purchase, Lewis Hayden, the vaccine of Oz, Epstein, and the Trump dump. We'll also have our segments Fascism Creeps and Issue Update. I'm Tom Bickle,
And I'm Matt Nisanoff.
and we'll start with
The Bundy reach around. This may be a sign of the apocalypse, perhaps. We're not quite clear. That reporting has not been confirmed, but we have
what
heard
was
that.
it? Cats and dogs living together, human sacrifice, mass hysteria.
Exactly. What will this bring? The anti-government and militantly so, anti-government leader can't make sense out of supporting ICE and the violence that they bring to American communities as part of Trump's war on America. So a reporter reached out to him and spoke to Eamon Bundy shortly after the murder in the streets of Alex Preddy. And apparently Bundy said, it sickens me just to see the parallel of history repeating himself. He was referring to how the administration and so how this administration treats immigrants and comparing it to the Japanese internment camps during World War
Yeah,
II.
George Takei says hello.
Ain't that the truth? Firsthand knowledge. And but Bundy added, when it comes to the more humanitarian side of it, I think the left has it much more correct than the nationalist right.
Wow. How about that?
Quite an admission.
I mean, you want to pick your jaw up off the floor first or me?
Really, I'm still stunned by hearing about it. And first of all, he's right, but he's also right.
Right. Let's
He's
start
right.
there.
Exactly.
He's right from the
He's
right.
he's right from the right. And so, but the fact that they reported this, the fact that they asked this guy who has certainly shown that violence is not secondary to him, and what extents he'll go to in standing up to the government. He might be the one guy who all that NRA stuff and the right wing talk about standing up against tyranny and all of that discussion that has all of a sudden disappeared and is certainly not the actions behind what any of those folks are actually have said. But here he is, and he's standing by his word.
His word, his principle. I didn't see it coming either.
Yeah,
All these, all these paper patriots that a year ago were still railing and waving their fist in the air about tyranny. And, you just look out for that government. I'll show them what's what. I reckon, Patui, all this ridiculous posturing. And then now that there's actual tyranny, gone. I've been moaning and complaining about that for weeks, if not months, if not longer. And this guy, I mean, listen, I was super mad when he had took over that bird sanctuary in Eastern Oregon. You're not supposed to do that. It's against the law. Knock it off. I was pretty mad about it. But at least he's not just following the Pied Piper into the pits of hell. At least he's. I don't know that his instincts or his principles are any sharper than they were before this turnabout came about. But at least I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how to pin credit on Ammon Bundy, but you got to give him some kind of credit that he's not afraid to agree with people who agree with him.
well,
You
you got it right, exactly. You gotta at least acknowledge what he has said and the position he's taken. It's and especially in this environment where people are afraid, the people on his side of the issues are afraid to say anything that's not in line with the word of the day, the dictate that has been provided at 4 a.m. by somebody else, that he's actually willing to stand up and say, "Look, this is the problem. This is the thing that we should that we've
Yeah,
always stood against, and therefore should stand against now, and
yeah.
not
Imagine,
to be a coward."
imagine not moving the goalposts just for so it's emotionally convenient and comfortable for you, but actually standing next to it where you planted it. I don't know. You gotta take your hat off to some degree. Ammon
There you
Bundy.
go.
Who knew?
Although I never wear a hat, but I understand your argument. And Tulsi, we should move on to Tulsi Gabbard, who is the Director of National Intelligence, and the title. And she's broken the rules, but only if it were in a democratic republic where the National Security Agency discovered that two foreign intelligence agents had discussions about someone close to Trump. She intercepted this information, and instead of distributing it in the normal fashion to intelligence sources and following up on it, she took it directly to the White House Chief of Staff. At the time, that was still Susie Wiles. And of course, Wiles quashed the information. She made certain that it didn't go anywhere else, only went to her, and directed the NSA to send any further information to her as well. So we only know this due to a whistleblower who had filed a complaint about seeing it happen or knowing of it happening. So where's Tulsi Gabbard and who's she working for?
I mean, she was in what, Atlanta last week, snarfing up a bunch of election ballots, which she had absolutely no business doing. That's where she'd been. Where she is today, I don't know. In Putin's hip pocket, I think, right next to the president.
Well,
You
this is
know, and
something.
this is
Yeah.
like so. I guess something was reported, and she grabbed it and put it in a safe or something. Sat on it when she's supposed to have passed it to Congress within, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, some short time span. 6 months later, still hasn't happened. It's like catch and kill on the federal style. They're treating it just like the New York Post or whatever it was. What paper was that? Do you recall? Was the Inquirer did a bunch of catch and kill? I think it was
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
David Peck.
Yeah. The
I
Inquirer.
remember. I remember the Pecker. Anyway, yeah, it's the same thing. It's ridiculous, and this is espionage at the highest levels. Could we please? Could we please get a ticking clock on that? And that the idea, the fact that it hasn't progressed any better than it has, is hugely damning. And I don't know why we aren't all stomping our feet. I don't know why Congress isn't just throwing a fit.
Well, it's
Um,
par for the course for these guys. This administration figures out new ways to break the law every day, and if it's not illegal, it's certainly in this case it is. But even when it's not something that's illegal, they find a way to make it as harmful to somebody else as possible, or to try to make it so you're skirting around the rules, if not the laws. You've got Gabbard with this illegal action. You've got Bondi testifying before Congress and throwing little temper tantrums that wouldn't be acceptable for an 8-year-old, much less for somebody who's supposed to be representing the government of the United States of America as the Attorney General. And, you know, what don't they do where somebody's breaking the law or skirting the rules, and it's every single day. So you're right, it is illegal, but as far as somebody reacting to it, okay, let's do that. And then we'd have to go through everything they've done every day because this is where we are. This is who we're dealing with. There's the only thing that matters is how can they act illegally to protect their cadre.
the hell of a thing.
And to speak of the Russian connection, I mean, that's not something new either. When she was running her own campaign for president, that was the like the first thing that came out in opposition research to her were the ties to Putin and to Russia, and attending these dinners and meetings and all sorts of things where she's clearly collaborating with them. So the fact that for people to be shocked and amazed that she has some sort of tie to Russia, that's yeah, that's okay. Well, read a newspaper.
Right.
I think we're moving along to our first segment. That would be fascism creeps, and looking at some updated information on what's going on with creeps. Operation Dildo Blitz launched last Saturday at the Whipple Federal Building in Minnesota. Hundreds of dildos were brought in to the free speech zone and placed on the road and signs and fences and gifted to agents uh, and added to their cars, which led to police declaring an unlawful assembly and mass arresting 54 people, just as pardoned J6 writer Jake Lang and pro ICE groups drove a U-Haul through there, firing paintballs with some kind of unknown substance in them at the protesters. And that's despite, you want to pick it up from there, and that's despite.
That's despite Jake Lang just being released Friday after being arrested and charged with felony property damage for destroying a permitted $6,000 prosecute ice sculpture at the Minnesota Capitol. And I think we've all seen the video of this fancy boy prancing his way through the sculpture in what was just a stunningly masculine display where he almost fell on his ass and did a little sort of a quarter pirouette. There's a great still shot of it where, again, looking very bare-chested and manly. So had a good showing for himself there.
Yeah, I thought the yoga pants were a particularly good addition.
Camo yoga pants. It's a style. It's a vibe.
Well, now, U.S. Marshals have defended an agent who was part of Trump's Memphis Safe Task Force. Pardon me. Ugh, you can say that word. You can say that sentence. Yeah. As a video of him violently kicking a small, unthreatening dog during an operation in Tennessee.
Right. They just keep getting more and more popular. They just know what the Americans love, and they keep really, just digging in. Let me pick it up from there. On Friday, an Illinois judge ordered the release of body cam footage and texts in the Chicago case where Customs and Border Patrol agents shot teacher Miramar Martinez 5 times, contradicting DHS claims she was the aggressor. And then Minnesota legal observers, I can say that one time fast, say they have received reports of federal agents impersonating construction workers, delivery drivers, anti-ICE activists, and swapping plates to evade citizen watchers. Like you do when you're totally above board and not shisty or shifty.
Exactly. It's really just so amazing that we're at this point that these alt-right goons are wandering the streets of America, and that this part of Trump's war in America is, while it's being questioned on the political side, that it has not been actually prevented. I mean, some positive things have happened recently. Apparently, the Democrats have stood up and have been working on defunding the ICE portion of the budget, and that's still an ongoing story. So we don't know how it's going to end up. And Chuck Schumer usually finds a way to snatch compromise from the jaws of ethics and taking a stand. But we'll see what actually happens. We've got to wait and see what happens. But it's right now it seems like they are making the stand that is the thing that they can do, which is take the money away and see what happens, see how if they're able to afford the surplus military equipment and uniforms once they've lost the money.
Yeah, you know, uh, I am stuck in a perpetual state of frustration with my elected officials. Uh, their ideas are lame and behind the times and ineffective. And body cams are good if they wear them and can't turn them off at will. Maybe it'll help. It almost feels ridiculous to say it. Maybe it will help enforce some form of accountability if and let's be serious, when things go wrong. Um, but I'm dubious. I heard somebody say that, well, sure, let's go throw some more money at them rather than less so they can all have body cams. They're going to control, I'm sure they're going to end up controlling the video themselves anyway if they don't just outright dump it in the toilet. This administration knows no bounds. So I'm skeptical, I'm cynical, I've been hurt before, really sick of trying to believe. And so I wonder, but I don't know, not knowing what the right answers are. I'm stuck in a perpetual loop of I want more. I want to see more results and accountability. I want to see things change. I want it to happen now. Yesterday was too late. You know what I mean? And so when I hear these things, I'm just perpetually underwhelmed, and I'm trying trying not to I guess express my frustration and diminish progress. Okay, it's not the progress all the progress I want in my little inner child way. But progress is progress, and that's how you win. Is you rack up these little wins, and they become a big one. I guess.
We certainly do hope that's the case. And sometimes history gives you a little bit of a clue as well. And so one thing that I did this week was look back and tried to find some interesting stories or interesting little events that have happened in the past. And one of them came to my attention, was the case of a fellow named Lewis Hayden, who I think, frankly, we should all know. We should all know a lot better. He was born a slave in Lexington, Kentucky, and he was helped by abolitionists to escape to Canada after tragically having to watch his father auctioned, his mother become mentally ill from abuse, and his first wife and one of his two children sold at auction to, of all people, Henry Clay, the elected official from Kentucky. And once they were sold, he never saw them again. He never saw the first wife or the child, one of the first child ever again. Second child died. A few decades later, he was able to remarry, and he had another child. And they moved from Canada down to Boston. When in Boston, he became an active member of several communities there, one of them being the folks running the Underground Railroad. And Hayden helped protect humans. Hundreds of people went through his doors and went through under his protection to make it through to the next step, getting up to Canada. Perhaps most famously, William and Ellen Craft. Slave catchers used the Fugitive Slave Act to go after the Crafts. And when they came to Hayden's door, he blockaded the door and he told them they could come in, but he had placed a barrel of gunpowder under the stairs and would destroy the entire neighborhood if they stepped inside. That's the historic version of ICE, um, and not entering.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
much for show me a warrant.
exactly, Yeah, I mean, they had the Fugitive Slave Act, which was their the nowadays the ICE guys use this form I-200 and say, oh yeah, this is a warrant, this is a warrant, and no, it's not. It's not
Not a
signed by a
warrant.
judge. It's not so it's their version of the same thing. And he also led raids on the courts. So just like today, where, for instance, you may have heard in New York, there are ICE agents that line the hallways of the court system. So people come for their fair hearing to
Right.
talk to a judge as to what's happening and what's going to happen next. And the ICE agents stand in the hallway, wait for them to leave, and then pounce on the people and arrest them. And Mr.
Yeah.
Hayden took a bunch of people and said, "Well, we're going to go over to the courthouse and let's see how we work this out." And there were cases where they actually gained control of the person, the former slave, and were able to move them along through the Underground Railroad, going through the slave catchers, which is, I think, somewhat inspirational. And there were a couple of cases where they did not get to the person that they were trying to help.
Mm.
And in one case, they rescued a fellow named Shadrach Minkus, and where the crowd had invaded the court and removed him before the slave catchers could get a hold of him, and they got him off to Canada. And one that did not work was a fellow named Anthony Burns, and that's where things became very violent. They were unable to get a hold of Mr. Burns, and as a next step, the slave catchers put together a force of 2,000 men to escort Burns from the court to the next step and remove him from Boston. And people like Hayden put the word out in their networks, and they had 50,000 people show up to line the streets and jeer at the officers or jeer at the slave catchers. And in fact, it was so intimidating that they never came back to Boston. The slave catchers did not come back to Boston after that. And um, that's an interesting idea, that the protests and the jeering and the having enough people to line
The
the
numbers.
streets,
That's right.
that seemed to be effective historically. I'm talking about a historical situation
Right. For educational purposes only.
for educational purposes only.
Well, Lewis Hayden, good for him.
Yeah, yeah. So here's a really inspirational individual. And so there's an example from history for you. One that's less of an example for history, I think, that will go down as perhaps more of a failure than anything else. That would be Mehmet Oz. Apparently, Mehmet Oz is urging people who works under RFK Jr. And in the, I guess they still call it the health field, or have they come up with it? I don't know. So Mehmet Oz has urged people to get the measles vaccine, and this is after all of the disparagement that RFK Jr. has spewed over the last several years, dismantling the vaccine committees and saying that there's something secretly wrong with them. Here's Oz popping up and saying, "Take the vaccine, please," and urging it because of the rise in measles in the United States, and we could wind up losing the elimination status. There were 920 cases across the South, South Carolina, Texas, over to Utah and Arizona. And RFK Jr.'s flip flopping continues. He called for the vaccines at one point, but dismantled the vaccine requirements. He said individuals should take responsibility to get the vaccines themselves, not have to have it mentioned by the government, but then question the safety of the vaccines, and had the HHS change its policies and undermine vaccines. So, how many more lives? That's 920 cases of measles in the United States in 2020s. And how many more lives have to be put at odds or jeopardy? Um, certainly more because of Trump policies and following the dictates of RFK Jr. But for some reason, Oz is calling for it. So we'll see what happens to him next. Anything else on that before we move on?
I mean, it does make you wonder. They're for vaccines. They're against vaccines. They're for vaccines again. Uh, Maybe measles is. I mean, of course, it is enough of a threat that he is afraid to play games with it. It's incredibly contagious. I hear it sweeping through the concentration camps we have for our those swept up by ice. Uh, those people are living in filth at by every report, by any report. I don't think anybody has supposed that they're living over their clean, healthy lives in detention. And so, you're going to get diphtheria, much less measles. Measles is super contagious. Anyway, so yeah, I worry about it, and it makes you wonder. I don't know what they're guided by over there. It certainly doesn't seem to be science or principle.
Right. They have all the conspiracy theories and they have all the wisdom that conspiracies bring. And then there's reality. And here it is, another set of realities slapping us in the face. In this case, measles spreading all over the country again. And how many diseases do we have to go through? And how many will we hear that will be cured by, what was it, putting lights inside the body and
Right. How
maybe,
many? How many before we cut the shit is really the question. Before
right,
we
and
stop
do the
screwing
damage.
around. Well, once you start with these conspiracy theories, once you break free from reality and science, you just do what you want, and it's all about excuses. It's all about pretexts, and it's like the misuse of religion. Oh well, God said. He says one thing this week, another thing, mysterious ways. Once you start acting because of something Q said, or this nonsense, then you can just talk yourself into and out of your own interpretation of what was all smoke and voodoo in the first place.
Yeah,
And people are going
exactly.
to die.
Even worse, it's the conspiracies when you're out of power, you can use them and stir up the crowd. But when you're in power and you start messing around with things that we know actually work, then it can lead to a health crisis and a disaster because you're screwing around with vaccines, which are proven, and you're screwing around with but it's just another thing to them. It's another thing, part of the culture wars, and it made for a great speech. So follow through on it,
Yeah,
and unfortunately, people's lives.
you can fundraise off of it really well.
Yeah.
Oogie boogie.
Let's move on to our segment. This is issue updates and some things that have been happening from other stories. So once upon a time, Trump.
Tell me a story, Matt.
Once upon a time, Trump endorsed a bridge between the U.S. and Canada, a physical bridge, because there's he's not for much of any
More of
other
a
country.
moat drawbridge sort of a thing. No.
Exactly. Um, but now, of course, he's on the other side of it. Now he's railing against it. In 2017, he was for it. 2025, he's against it. Um, so that has come up again because there was a big long diatribe in which he threatened to block the opening of this. So they've gotten the thing built. They've put all the effort in and the money and the time and the construction. And he's saying, yeah, well, it's a multi-billion-dollar bridge, but hey, I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna show you who's boss. And connecting Windsor and Detroit, which is probably why he's targeting it, because it's one end comes to Detroit, which the president claims that Barack Obama had approved. Stupidly approved was his words. And
All due respect. Hey, yo. All due
yeah,
respect. Hey.
exactly. Right, right. Which is the sort of thing he does all the time. When the head of the Fed was doing something he didn't like, Trump wants to fire the guy, right? And he says, so he disparages him. Oh, this guy that Biden put in place, how horrible, what a terrible guy. And there's video of him as he's appointing the guy to the Fed, and he's the one who named him, and he's the one who appointed him, and but it's better to say Biden did it because he doesn't like him now. This is the exact same playbook every time, and so we'll see what actually happens. Canada and the U.S. have had such a positive relationship for so long on the border, having an open border, the longest free border, I think, in the world. And Trump is working hard to destroy that because he can. And so
That's
here's an
all the
example.
reason you need or you're going to get.
Yeah. So there's the story of the Gordie Howe International Bridge, and we'll see if they live happily ever after. The Another story to catch up on is the Republican House leadership declaring a national emergency to allow Trump's to have his tariffs. That was several years ago. They declared that there was an emergency situation, and therefore the rules regarding how things were done with trade had to be suspended so the president could take action to make everything better. Um, the resolution has come up several times. It's not a permanent thing. It's passed, and then after a certain amount of time, you have to renew it. And they have. The leadership has forced the renewal of the resolution a couple of times, but they are having some problems. And that was last time they did it. It did not go well. There was a lot of problems getting it through, but they did. And this time, it looks like they didn't. So the most recent vote to reauthorize it didn't go the way Johnson wanted. And 3 Republicans joined the Democratic caucus to strike down the resolution. And that meant that the Democrats had a chance to offer a competing resolution. So the first one up they want to do is a challenge to the 25% tariff on Canadian trade. And part of what it means is, A, it could change the tariff situation with our neighbors. And secondly, it means that there'll actually be a vote that's recorded. So this time you're going to have to say whether you're for tariffs or not by voting for or against something and on the record. So the Senate has already gone on record against the tariffs. And now, just today, as a matter of fact, earlier today, about 3 hours ago, the Democrats did follow through and offered this resolution. And with the help of those 3 Republicans, it passed. So the 25% tariff on the Canadian goods is officially challenged. I will see what happens in the next step as far as the actual negotiations. But they said they would do it, and they did. Who had that on their bingo card?
Right. So much for the powerless minority, huh?
There you go. Yeah, sometimes you can actually get something done, even if it's not everything you want, because sometimes you just gotta have the power to actually do it. But this is one way. Another thing that's been happening where we are updating on the situation, the U.S. Attorney Jeannie Pirro signed a motion to dismiss the indictment of Stephen Bannon. Bannon, everybody knows. I think everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows he's a creepy guy who
He's an unwrapped mummy.
unwrapped mummy. Too true. Yeah, and he's the one who, as we've discussed on this show before, he has this idea of how everything is in pandemonium. There's American carnage, and things are, you know, tire fires in the street and roaming gangs, and he's watched Mad Max too many times, is what's happened, and he now thinks that's reality. And yet, because of him and his policies, there he is. He gets Trump gets in, and all these things Bannon was saying were happening now are more likely and approaching to happen because he's helping to make it happen. That we have ice in the street, and we
You got to
have
be the change you want to see in the world, man.
exactly, exactly. So he's bringing about the apocalypse so that he can claim he was right all along. And certainly it was nothing like that was happening in reality. But anyway, there was an indictment against him, and Perot has stepped in to dismiss it. So we'll see. Bannon was already put in prison over another indictment, so we'll see what happens and if there are more coming, or if there can be more to surface after the midterms, perhaps.
I want to point one thing out, and I apologize in advance for this. I have to say it. You're slightly mispronouncing the lady's name. Obviously, you don't watch enough Fox News, so this is a blessing, not a curse. It's Jeanine Pirro. Jeanine Pirro, and she is a goggle-eyed, reputed alcoholic. Just very whatever she is, she's a very stereotypical that. I encourage you to catch in small doses, catch her act, especially when she's trying to sound emphatic and authoritative. It's hilarious. Anyway, Jeanine Pirro.
Pirro, I'm gonna have to remember it.
I mean, like I say, once you catch her gig a few times, it sears into your kind of like you ever smell pig shit? You really can't you you can't get rid of it. It sticks to your soul, and no matter how long it's been since you've smelled it, if you imagine it, it stays with you. It's the same thing with Jeanine Pirro and hearing her name. There's a parallel there, sensory.
Gotcha. Yeah, Perot is. I don't know where that's coming from, but thank you. I appreciate your noting that. Pirro.
You know what it reminds me of is, and I know you didn't do it on purpose, but when you want to insult somebody, you slightly mispronounce their name. George Bush the Elder did with he called him Saddam. He wouldn't call him Saddam. He wouldn't give him the satisfaction of saying Saddam. It sounds, I at least the man was smart. He ran the CIA. He's not an idiot. He knows how to say Saddam. He knows how to say Saddam. Even Saddam. That's pretty Americanized. That's pretty Angloized. He would always Saddam. He would always drag it out to Dana Carvey's great delight. Saddam would be good. Anyway, and I think his son did too. I can't remember, but it's a great little diplomatic dig. It's like a way of saying "f you" without saying it, and yet you're kind of saying it. Is to screw up somebody's name repeatedly every time you say it, never ever get it right. It's an effective tactic.
So true, and I'll try to remember Mrs. Perot's name. So I'm going to ask you to take the next to
well, of course,
bring us home on the next issue, and then I'll move on.
I'll tell you, it'll be my pleasure. A grand jury has refused to indict 6 Democratic elected officials for a video they made reminding troops what is in the United States Judicial Code of Justice that they are required to refuse illegal orders. This happened to be coincidental to videos to showing Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth saying the exact same thing in a speech he made a few years before being driven mad as a Trump cabinet member and calling for the prosecution and loss of pension, rank, and privileges for those Democratic elected officials who simply stated the same point of view. So to recap all those syllables, The 6 Democratic senators, I think they all had a past in. They're all veterans, as far as I
Military,
understand it.
yes.
Yeah, experience in the military, and they just reminded people that if you get an illegal order, you're required not to follow it. You can choose not to follow it. You must and should choose not to follow it. This is something we never really argued before, and yet, so Pete Hegseth tried to yank on the old chain on our buddy. Well, whatever his name was, he's not that good of a buddy.
Kelly, Mark Kelly.
Thank you very much, Mark Kelly, Gabby Gifford's husband, right? Yeah, very experienced. Drove the space shuttle for Pete's sake, multiple missions. Yeah, tried to yank that guy's chain and say, "Well, you can't go around reminding people of legal, duty-bound responsibilities. That's just not what we do here in the military." Uh, and it didn't work. Is the long and short of it. At least it hasn't worked yet, and good. I'll add that. Yeah.
There you go. That made the point. And but it is true that that is in the military code of justice. It says in black and white in the book itself. It says
Like they
you're
said in
not
Game of
to
Thrones, it is
you're
known.
required, right? You're required to not follow an illegal act, and so it's your duty when you make that oath to the Constitution. Then you're also agreeing to
Wait.
follow the military.
Constitution J. Trump? I don't get it. The what?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So there are some apparently who make some kind of mistake about whether they're swearing an oath to the Constitution or to some individual. But in fact, they are not doing it to an individual. They are uh, pledging to defend both from enemies, foreign and domestic, and swearing their allegiance to the Constitution. Please, speaking of legal things and the potential repercussions, I'm going to hand the mic over to you now, actually, and let you go ahead and. Haha. Actually, I'll pick it up here. There we go. And you are back on, sir. Please, if you can pick up our next issue, which is Mr. Epstein's Neighborhood.
Yeah. This is the Epstein files and the avalanche of poo keeps on a rolling. And some other countries actually have, again, there's that word again, principles, and are punishing their public figures for their relationship with Mr. Epstein. And first up on the chopping block this week was French former Minister Lang. He quit his plum job over Epstein ties. French former minister. It will not save you. He had financial ties to Epstein that were first reported by Politico, and was under mounting pressure after new revelations. He was the former French culture and education minister. He first acknowledged financial ties to Epstein in a 2020 interview with Politico. And he has tendered his resignation from his position as a president of Paris-based Arab World Institute after the latest revelations about his and his family's financial ties to the disgraced financier.
And there's another in Europe, at least, they're taking it seriously, and there's a number of elected officials and some unelected leader type people who are being held accountable.
There's members of the monarchy. Andrew Mountbatten. He mounted a one horse out of town is what he mounted. Poor choice of words. I'm not going to follow that one any further, but you get my drift. Yeah, and they're talking about throwing Keir Starmer overboard in Great Britain just because he knew somebody who knew Epstein. It's that's how seriously they're taking it. Good for them. If it can be destroyed by the truth, it deserves to be destroyed by the truth. Rock on.
Yeah, and more so with Andy Mountbatten. He's now has his brother, who's the king, King Charles III. There has said that he will work with the police in looking into the charges against Andy. Well, that's big trouble. You know, at one point they were talking about how they were going to remove his titles and privileges, but that he would remain a prince because that's a matter of birth. Well, it was King Charles who stepped in and said, no, no thanks. That can go
Yoink!
too. It's time to take a hike
The
here.
king giveth, the king yoinketh away.
Yeah, I mean, that's how serious this is and how serious
Hey,
they're taking it.
this is a
And
culture that reveres off with his head. So why don't you just be glad that's all their
going
chopping
after.
off, lopping off, circumcising.
Well, and then there's the tangential Epstein, Giselle. Is Giselle?
It's
Maxwell?
Ghislaine. I always pronounce it Ghislaine because I'm a child and also she's gross and deserves it. But I don't think that's the proper pronunciation, nor is it anything close to journalism.
Well, Ms. Maxwell
If you're nasty,
has pled, and she certainly is,
yeah, right.
has pled the fifth in front of the House Oversight investigation of Epstein. And so, I mean, the whole investigation they're doing into sex offender and child rapist Jeffrey Epstein, uh, they had a Monday morning hearing, and she declined to answer questions in her sworn deposition. She's been at this for, well, she has a sentence of 20 years for all of the things that she did for Epstein and trafficking people and all of that. And she invokes the fifth every chance she gets. Um, she's also promised that if she gets clemency from Trump, that she will say that he didn't do anything. So the fact that she's offering that and giving away what she's going to say
Yeah,
makes me think that maybe it's disingenuous.
you're sharp. You don't miss much.
Is it? Yeah. Is it me?
You know, I was born. I was born on a Wednesday, but not today. Uh, yeah. It seems to me to be the intention is to spit in your face. You know, maybe if you grant me clemency, I'll be a real nice girl and tell you how this guy didn't do nothing. The fix is in. And I'm glad that some of the people asking questions pointed out, well, you didn't need clemency to talk to Todd Banks, Trump's lawyer, for what, a total of 8 hours over 2 days? You didn't need protection for that. Do you want clemency to talk to us? I wonder, why did you feel safer in that room than you do in this room? I think that is the right question, and I think asked in the right way. And I would love to hear an answer, and I never ever will, never in my life. Yeah, what do you do?
And there, yeah, and exactly, and yet there are others who are facing repercussions. And in fact, there's one, this Howard Lutnick, who's the Commerce Secretary, who came out is in the Epstein files for having sent emails. He and his wife sending emails back and forth to the island and figuring out how to get there and all that kind of stuff. There's no um, dispute that those are legitimate. And because of it, even Republicans are calling on Lutnick to resign from the cabinet just because he's mentioned in it. So somebody else is facing consequences. It's be interesting to see what would happen if she were to actually face consequences herself. Another story that's been going around, is you may have seen or heard, is Jamie Raskin, who's a Democratic congressman, has accused DOJ of covering up after he was able to look at the unredacted Epstein files. And a number of other, even Republicans who are diehard MAGA, Lauren Boebert came out after looking at the unredacted version, and she was enraged. She was very much saying there's there's so maybe they'll actually be spurred on to actually do something. One thing
They
would
lost
be
Bobert.
looks that way.
I mean, they lost Maggie, Madge, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They lost Bobert. I hear they lost Rittenhouse. I hear Rittenhouse has turned uh, and said, "Hey, this is some bullshit." When you've lost Rittenhouse, man, I mean, this is I don't know. It doesn't get more MAGA-y. So for these people to dry up and drop off of the vine, that's not good for them. That is a real
Yeah,
cultural shift.
yeah. And all of this is in part because they're seeing the unredacted version. So they're seeing the actual details, the things that the DOJ has helped cover up. They're seeing the actual
Yeah,
things about not
about
only
that.
child rape, but child torture, apparently. And
Yeah,
um, so, yeah, I mean, all of these gruesome details that are taken out to protect the victim is what it's, the whole redacting thing is supposed to be done to protect the victims, but somehow a lot of the predators have wound up getting redacted. So
yeah.
I guess it's who you perceive as the victim here.
Well, I'd like to add a couple of things. First of all, like you said, Bobert and other people coming out of those closed meetings where they're or the closed doors where they can review this evidence, they're coming out pissed. They're coming out hot. They're coming out offended and disgusted and troubled deep, deep in their hearts. And another thing I heard on a reliable podcast, I can't remember which one this morning, uh, the Justice Department is recording what those people searched. So if you're a politician and you go in there and you got your secret room with your secret computer going on and you search those files, they're tracking who searched what. They're holding on to that information. That's kind of spooky, you know. They're seeing what other people are trying to access and what they are accessing. That is the Justice Department practicing oversight over Congress. That's unconstitutional. It's not how it's supposed to be. None of your goddamn business what I searched in there. I
Well,
searched Trump 37 ways from Sunday.
right, exactly. Well, that's I assume part of the case that Raskin is making. He is not being quiet. He is not only talking about it, but following up and acting on these things. So uh, you gotta admire the guy. He's doing the right thing, and he's moving
Raskin,
forward as best
absolutely.
he can.
I'm going to get him
Raskin,
tattooed on
absolutely.
my left butt cheek. He's fantastic. I love him.
There you go. Um, and so here's just another thing that he's working on, and so well done, sir. Kudos. We should put together an award or a sort of a I don't know some sort of
I'm going to buy him a new
prize.
dashiki or whatever that thing was wearing when he was going through this chemotherapy.
The do rag, yeah. Um, so that brings us to our traditional closer here, the Trump dump. We've
I
moved
thought I saw
forward
something.
in our
Absolutely.
yep, we've moved forward in our evening, and now's the time for a Trump dump.
Bringing it home.
Yeah, so of course, how can we not mention the racist meme that was put up from the White House, from White House social media, and
This guy. This
yeah,
guy, huh?
yeah, exactly. Some of
You
the most
know,
racist stuff there is equating a black person to uh, a monkey or
yeah.
chimpanzee, whatever it was, and he did it with both President Obama and First Lady uh, Michelle Obama, and it's already proven that he has no shame. He's got no filter. This is all par for the course for him. And of
Mhm.
course, when it became controversial, of course, he then blamed it on a staffer who magically somehow gained access to his social media.
Right.
And so this is just another thing that we can add to the. I mean,
Uh huh.
maybe there was some sort of social media oversight in the East Wing, but it probably doesn't
Are
exist
you
now.
kidding? Yes,
Yeah,
that bastion of restraint
yeah,
and
exactly,
discipline. Absolutely. Good
exactly.
taste. Yeah. No, you're right. I don't know what that this is a rare change in form. I don't know what happened. Uh, this piece of shit. This is that old school racism. This is the fundamental, nothing fancy. This is just keeping it to basics racism. And I think back to 2015, and I'm working a desk job just like I am now, and I looking up articles trying to learn about this Trump because there's just a lot of hype, and he's on TV and this, and people say this, and people say that. It's all rumor and innuendo because nobody wants to go on record. And I'm wondering, and you never know what's true about people. You learn about movie stars you think are fantastic, and you find out they're just terrible, terrible people. It happens all the time, because people are people. And even if you're rich and famous and have pretty eyes, you could probably still be an asshole or in need of some bipolar medication or whatever it is that, you know, otherwise they get off the handle. That was a terrible way to say what I was trying to say. I apologize to anybody offended. You're probably right. What I'm trying to say is that people on TV, you just don't know what you're looking at. And so you try to do a little research, especially if you're trying to run the country. And I would read about Donald Trump, and people would say he's terrible, but they'd leave it at that. They'd leave it to the imagination. Nobody wanted to say. And now you can imagine we're saying things now only because they've been drugged. These issues have been drugged and dragged, struggling into the daylight, and that he's a rapist, he's a pedophile, allegedly, reportedly. Um, he's terrible. He tells children there's no Santa Claus. I think it was on TV. He did that. He stares at the sun. I mean, 2015, trying to figure out what kind of person this is, and you hear people say just terrible stuff, but they won't really back it up because they don't want to get sued. They don't want to get sued for defamation or libel. They don't want to get knocked off by some intelligence agency, which may well be wrapped up in all of this. And I'm just thinking about that poor, young, slim Tom Bickle who was trying to figure out what Trump was all about. And you really didn't have a choice or a chance except if you just read anything ever written about him. How he would stiff contractors and he would stiff everybody and everybody, left, right, and center. And it's just, and this is if you even were open to believing it. Most people don't want to hear it. They're not into politics, or they're big fans of the guy already. They don't want to hear about that nonsense that maybe shatters their illusion. I don't know. It's nostalgic. This Obama thing, it really takes me back to a simpler time when we really didn't know what just a solid through to the core piece of crap we're dealing with. And it really defined. Maybe they just didn't have the words, Matt. Maybe there aren't words,
We knew.
right?
We knew.
I feel
We
like I
knew.
knew.
It was not a secret in New York,
Yeah.
especially
Well, exactly. Yeah.
for decades.
And
We knew. We knew.
why couldn't you tell the rest of us effectively, Matt? We were. I like to
Oh,
think we were listening, but maybe we weren't.
exactly. Only every day. We only said it every day. But no, we didn't tell you, but we did it, and we did it every day. But
Other than that,
there you
yeah.
go. Um, this is what the culture wars do, I guess. And just another example. I mean, not that there aren't enough examples, and we all know them. And here's another one: the whole thing with ICE, where they have to be turned out of where they're operating. Hundreds of them are ordered to leave Minnesota, and his response is, "Well, they're only doing it because we're gonna now protect federal buildings only, but we won't do it in democratic cities unless they ask really nice. They've got to ask me, and they got to ask me really nice because that's one of his. He thinks that is some sort of trump card, if you excuse the expression, but he thinks that's some sort of great play where if he says that you have to ask nice,
Right. You have to
that it
beg
makes
me.
extra. Right, right, exactly. You got to beg
And
me.
then he'll still turn around and screw you if you
Oh yeah,
do.
oh
If
yeah,
you knuckle under, it's not
absolutely.
going to go your way.
Well, how about one last thing, and that would of course be the Super Bowl. And of course, he attacked the performer Bad Bunny, and attacking Bad Bunny is just another Trump folly, really. 135 million people watched Mr. Bunny, and as for the alternate reality of the Hillbilly Vanilli, uh, Kid Rock is what he's called. That attracted about 6 million. So perhaps we should deny that the alt right event ever even happened. That would be.
And I heard that 6 million is inflated. Uh, that real numbers beyond way below that. And have you seen? I wish it's too bad we don't have the video of Kid Rock and his little demonstration. Have you seen any of it?
I've seen about 30 seconds is about all I can take of that guy
All
at
you
one
need,
time.
yeah, yeah. It's like poison. You just a whiff, just to
He's
know it's
hopping around.
nasty.
Listen, to be perfectly honest, I couldn't understand a word he was saying. A hip hop dibbity diggy. It's like
Oh, chug the boogie,
this
yeah.
is not English. I think I don't know what he was talking. I don't know. I can't understand the guy. I don't know what he
You
was
know,
saying.
he passes himself off like a Southerner. You make a good point. He passes himself off like a Southerner. He's got the Confederate flag, and he's all about the South. And you really want some good homegrown sort of gumbo gibberish. And this Northern Michigan crap that he's trying to pass off as people in the South have been mumbling for hundreds, if not thousands, of years, and they've got a reputation, and for him to and for him to wobble around on stage and not even lip sync well his mumbled lyrics, it crosses so many lines. It is like exponential how silly and offensive it is. But I at least get I want Boomhauer level dang old good God man.
There you go.
That's I won't have anything less, Matt. I'm just telling you. I'm an aficionado. Call me a diva if you must.
Exactly. Exactly. And I will say that I did watch the entire Super Bowl halftime show,
Yeah.
and it was an amazing mini show. It was singing and dancing and going through Puerto Rican culture as he's
Right.
walking through the maze that was also actually people wearing
The
the the,
grass.
the field and the sugar
Yeah.
cane and whatnot, and going through the dancers and going through the old guys playing cards and going by the construction site and
Yeah.
uh,
I want to say it was
by the
Domino's. Maybe it was both.
Domino. Yeah, you're correct. It was dominoes, and not cards, and the boxers, guys who
Yeah.
were doing it, and an actual wedding.
Right.
That wedding that was shown as part of the performance was an actual wedding. There was two people who
Yeah.
actually got married
Very life
live at
affirming.
the Super Bowl. So
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then his handing the Grammy to Liam, to the 5-year-old uh, who had been taken by ICE and mistreated down in Texas, but was finally released. He and his father released, and there he was getting the Grammy handed to him by Bad Bunny. It was amazing, and it was entertaining, and it was exactly what you would want for a 20-minute halftime show during
Yeah.
during a football game.
Well, it was also it was also a performer where you couldn't understand what he was saying, but from a whole different direction. But it was also a contemporary performer. He's currently popular. He wasn't 25 years ago popular. He wasn't he wasn't lip syncing. He actually sang his own music. How about that? And it's relevant and it's today. It's not from late 90s or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you can point out that he was speaking Spanish, which he was, and he did for his portion,
Yeah.
but that avoids talking about the fact that he had Lady Gaga sing part of the performance, and hers was completely in English. So you could these people who are whining and complaining about not understanding and blah blah blah. Well, here you go. You could understand Lady Gaga, and he had Ricky Martin come on and do a cameo for a part of a song, and so there was a lot going. Actually there's one thing that I will mention about the
Okay.
performance,
A
and that is
nitpick.
how he. Yeah, this really is a conundrum for me. He kept losing his balance whenever he was on top of a building. Did you notice that there were two different sections
I
where
didn't
he would
catch that
jump
part.
on top of a building and he would fall off? And so I wonder what that was about. If
Huh. There must have
that
been some
was
meaning to it. I don't know.
an earthquake reference, maybe, or something. I don't know. But every time he was on a rooftop, it was like, oh no, he's gonna fall again. But grabbing his crotch seemed to steady him. Whenever he grabbed his
Well,
crotch, he was able to stand and not
we all
fall off.
center ourselves however we must.
That's exactly. So it's good that that was.
Gotta find your happy place,
You
Matt.
gotta know,
I'm
right? You
not
gotta
until
know
you try
yourself.
it, baby. Wait till after the show, though.
You gotta know your thing. You gotta know yourself. So, anything else about the Super Bowl before we wrap up?
No, you've got the best of me on that one.
There you go. And we have provided you with the Super Bowl of this week's political talk
That's right.
in the form of
Everybody's a winner from this thing.
PolitiPod Live, and we have won 29-12, whatever it was. So, thank you for joining us on PolitiPod Live for Political Talk. You're welcome to join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here for PolitiPod Live. If you want political laughs, you can join us and a half dozen of our friends for our monthly political comedy podcast, PolitiPod. You'll find that at soundcloud.com/PolitiPod. This is Matt Nisanoff
And I'm Tom Bickle.
saying good night.